In this tutorial in Cyberlink PowerDirector, I'd like to give you some tips on using the lens flare effect. If you're a user of a more recent version of PowerDirector, how we work with lens flares has changed dramatically from earlier versions. We'd like to bring you up to speed in this tutorial. So I have on video track number 1 a couple of clips. They're outdoor scenes. The first one is this road between these rocky scrub canyons. And that's number 1. And then if I move my playhead over farther, this is another outdoor scene. We have a bridge, a dam, and a river. So let's see what it would be like if we were to apply a lens flare in these situations. To get to the lens flares, you move to the effects room. I'm going to click in the middle at the top on the word effects. And then I want to go to my filters and LUTs category, and then to the lens flare. Now when I look at the lens flares available to me in PowerDirector, you notice most of them are paired. Most of them have one at the upper left corner and then one that's more in the center. Now the second set here has 4 variations rather than 2, but for most of these it looks like it's 2. Corner, center, etc. A few of them don't fit the pattern, but that gives you a general view. So let's try a couple of them and see what happens. If you need to download one, it won't take very long at all. Let's go to one I haven't used before, if I can find one. Let's take these two here. Lens Flare 43, I'll click on it. Download speed is pretty good. It doesn't take long, and it will give you a preview of that lens flare as applied, although you haven't actually used it yet. So I'm going to take and drag that down. What you do is you drag it on top of the video clip. Now it will create a parallel track below it. Now notice what it does. The lens flare is a given length. It will take that length and replicate it till it gets to the end of the video track, and the last segment may be shortened. Watch what happens when I apply it to the other clip. Same effect, and it's different. Now I can take one of these effects and shorten them, but I cannot lengthen them beyond their natural length. So this length here is the same as this one, which is the default. So that's my limitations on working with the lens flares in terms of length. Now what if I'm working with a lens flare and I want to make some slight changes to it? I'm going to click on the edit button, and there's some options that we have when we're working with a lens flare. Because it's on a video track, I can do some interesting things with it. I can go to opacity, and I can dial my opacity back. I'll show you another way to do that in a moment. So if it's too intense, that's what I can do. I can also do a fade in and fade out. You can change the blending mode. In most cases, that's not probably what you want, but you can hover over each of them to see if that might work for you. The default is screen. We'll leave it on that. Now this one is in the corner, and the opacity is a little more than I want, so I'm just going to dial it back a little bit. And you notice it only applies to the segment I've got. If you want to take that and make that for everything, you can right click, and you can do some adjustments by clicking on Copy Keyframe Attributes. Let's see if it changes the first one. I'll right click on this one, and I'll do Edit Keyframe, Paste Keyframe Attributes, and yes, it did copy because it changed the opacity. So that's how to change it if you want to modify it in more than one of the segments where you're using this particular effect. There are other things that you can do besides that, however. If I click on the Advanced button, I'm going to see this screen. Now it starts in the upper left corner. One of the other things I can do in the previous screen or this one is change horizontal. Let me click on that. Now it's upper right. If I want to go back, I click again. Now I'm going to go vertical. Now it's lower left. Change horizontal and vertical, and I'm in lower right. So you can change which corner it will appear in. So I'm going to change these back to upper left. Now there's something else you can do as well. If I hold the left mouse button and drag, I'm actually going to take that and drag it so it's off the screen. You get to see exactly what it is. I can make it smaller if I want. So this is my effect. This is my lens flares. Now what I want to do in this case is I want to make it bigger. So I'm going to take it and I will stretch it out, make it a lot bigger. Now why would I do that? Because if I make it bigger, what I can do is I can slightly adjust it from the corner up or down. See, I've got more room down now because it's actually bigger than the video. I'm going to change my fit to 25%. Oh, that's way too small. 50%. Let's try 75. And I can move my lens flare wherever I want it to go, so I'm not limited only to the corner in this particular case. So I'll go back to my fit and I can see what it's going to look like. And the other thing I can do, especially with the opacity, is I can keyframe that. So I can start by moving my playhead back to the beginning. I'll click my opacity value here. And if I want it to say fade out at a certain time, let's give it 5 seconds. What I'm going to do in 5 seconds in is I'll hit the opacity value again. And we'll dial it down to nothing. So what we're going to see in this segment where we're using this is it will start with a lens flare that slowly fades out and returns to normal. The other thing you can do is you notice my keyframe changed here. You can also hold the control key down and click the left mouse button anywhere on the opacity line, and you can set a place that you can use to adjust what the value is for that opacity at that point in time. So I can increase it or lower it, and I can change the opacity, basically the power of the lens flare on and off during the course of a video. And again, if I want to copy from one to the other, I right click and then I choose copy keyframe attributes, and then I right click another one and I do paste keyframe attributes. And so now I have the same effect basically repeating itself, cycling through during the course of my video. The other one basically is a center. I'll click on that for a second. We'll download that. And here it's coming in the center. I'm going to delete these and apply the center effect to this clip. And let's see what this looks like. So that is the center. I can click on that as well, go to my edit options, go to the advanced, and do everything we saw a few moments ago. I can change the opacity, I can change the size of the lens flare, I can change the location, horizontal and vertical, and do some other things with it as well. Those are some basics on working with lens flares in the new interface in Cyberlink PowerDirector.